Okay, I'll start where I left off with the drop-down list not being displayed. Also, I'll set up a link so that I can. It may not be that big of a deal, but because I won't be using this that much, so I won't set up the link because the real estate is sort of limited on the screen, so I'll just type it in. Okay, I'm going to go to manual development, and then the name of this method is nested DDL. Okay, so nothing is populating, and actually the course drop-down list is not even showing. This is particularly sort of, it's insidious in the sense that it's very hard to see what the problem is, and I think this is one of the cases, just like the convention of the view component, the naming of the class. I think this might be a case where Microsoft has messed up. I remember I copied this over from another view, and I think it had been input. So input is for one entry, typically a text box, and here I was converting it into a select. So as long as, well, it was input, then it was fine that I closed it here. But for select, even if I don't have child elements, what Microsoft is expecting is, or Microsoft MVC is expecting, is that I don't close this right here this way. I need to have the separate closing element. And obviously you can see that's the case here. So once I have this, so it's, if I have it closed here, it's not recognizing anything past this. So, which is why if you look at this browser view, there is nothing. It's basically showing the label, and then it doesn't seem to know what to do beyond. So if I do this and save it and refresh this, you can see I have the drop-down list here. It has the course label, but then it disappears with the drop-down list of courses. That's because, again, since I copied it over and I didn't put the separate closing select tag. So this is something that, as I said, is very hard to detect, and because it started here, it basically continued on to the rest of the view as well. And it's very hard to determine what's causing it because it's such a almost very trivial looking reason for why it's not working. And honestly, this is one of the reasons I think my interest has been so much focused on the logic, the data layer, and the logic of programming, because there's less of these idiosyncrasies to deal with. I mean, everything has some level of it, but I find that in the other layers other than the UI, one can reason through the logic and figure things out a little more easily, but on the UI, it seems harder. Anyways, coming back, so now I have both the department and course drop-down list. Here, the next part I'm going to get into is the scripts. So at the bottom of this view, I'm just going to add in the section for scripts. So I can do this, section scripts, and then I will leave. This is the begin, this is the end. Okay. So the first thing I want is to get the, I'm going to rely on using jQuery. If I try to write this entirely as my own JavaScript code, it's going to take significantly more time and effort. In fact, that's one of the reasons that JavaScript does. It's actually quite an old language from around 94, 95, so it's nearly 25 years old, relatively speaking. That's it's not, but it was very popular through the 90s, and then it sort of went away because there were other languages and environments that became much more popular. But what's happened is with a series of libraries being introduced, such as jQuery, which use JavaScript. JavaScript essentially seems to have gotten a rebirth in the past 4, 5, 6 years in that span. So that's and how do you refer to the jQuery library? You have a script tag, and you specify the source from which this script is coming. And then give the URL for the code, which is actually code.jquery.com. And inside there are several versions of the jQuery library. The recommendation is to get the latest miniaturized or minified version, so that if the other version has the source code, so if you really want to look into the source code, you can get that. But since we are just referencing it, we'll just take the minimized version, which helps the program run faster. Okay, so, and then we specify that the type is text JavaScript, and this is the end of itself, cross it. So yeah, this is our reference to the jQuery library, which is actually online. So if you want to use it offline, you would have to set it up on your machine. And then we will write our function. Okay, so I'm going to again open up a script tag. Type is text JavaScript. And this is the closing tag. I think I should. I have too much space here. So just bring this up. Okay. Now I'm going to do something similar to what we did with the register. We start with the document. So when we use JavaScript on the register, registration of users, user roles, and then the department shows up only if the user chooses department chair for role. So that same concept of first getting hold of the document through the $ document and saying, okay, if you're ready, I'm going to apply this function on the document. Okay, and then, so again, this tends to keep going further down, so I should probably do this. Okay. So what I want to do inside here, and I have to add one other piece in. I want to be able to identify these two, the department that's chosen and the course that I want to populate. So the JavaScript is able to sort of focus in on an object if you use the ID element. So what I'm going to recommend is, especially when you're writing your functions, that you use the ID. So how do you use the ID? The simplest is go into the select tag. So basically we are saying whatever is selected here for ID, for department, we are going to use reference it through that ID tag, and we could call it, I'm just going to call it department. Department, this is the target, so then I cannot use ID. Well, it might cause some confusion. So this ID element attribute is going to be, so this is going to have a value of department target. So when I use department target, I know that I am referencing this department ID, okay? And then that allows me to get the value that was selected for this drop-down list. And then similarly, I'm going to set up another ID attribute for the course and call it course target. So I can then get a hold of this drop-down list element and populate it with the courses that are belonging to that particular department that's selected. Okay, so let's see how we are going to use that. I've opened up my function, and just as again we did with the registration method, I'm going to grab a hold of that object for which I have given that ID attribute, which was department target. Remember, right? So right here, right here, department target. Okay, so I'm going to set this up with getting access to department targets, target, double quotes, $, department target. Okay, and then close quotes. So I now have access to this particular target or particular object, which is basically the drop-down list. And then I'm going to say on change, this entire on change method itself. I need on change of this drop-down list. What I want to do is create a function, and this function is going to like the curly braces to be there. I can see lined up, but that doesn't matter in terms of the actual code itself. It's more a preference for whoever is doing the programming. So what I want to do is, if the department values change from the drop-down, if the user chooses a value, I want to now start repopulating the courses. So I'm going to create a variable called list, which actually is going to be the targeting the course drop-down list. Okay, the course drop-down list is right here. So we said we are identifying it using the ID, and so we are going to say, okay, whenever the department value changes, we are going to do something to the list of courses. Okay, and what is that change that we are going to do? And this is where we bring in Ajax. It's a method to generate Ajax. Ajax, as I mentioned to you earlier during our class discussion, allows you to go sort of seamlessly between the client side and the server side. Remember that we won't need to get the list of courses. This list of courses we need to get from, it's right here, okay. Based off the user selection of a department ID, we need to go to the database, get it converted into JSON, and return it back to the browser. So there is a back and forth movement, and this Ajax method actually helps to do it for us. Okay, so put the curly braces in. You have to sort of be very careful with these. Then the method in turn has curly braces. So you open, closed the function for Ajax, and we are doing this inside URL. Remember, is going to be, we are getting the courses. Okay, so this get courses is what we are mentioning, because this is in the same controller, so we don't, if we're going outside of the controller, we'll have to provide the full path. But since we are not, I'll just specify the URL. So these are all parameters for the Ajax method. So, and the type is a get. We are getting it, remember, we are getting this from the controller, which essentially goes to the database, gets it to provide it to the user. Okay, there's a get method. The data type is going to be JSON. We use lowercase. I don't know if it really matters. I don't think it does. And finally, the data that we are using here is going to, we are passing the ID that was selected, the department ID, and that ID is from the department target, so we have to say department target, okay, and we have to get the value from that particular object, whatever was selected. It's a method. Okay, so all of this here, so this constitutes the parameters that we need for the Ajax method to do its work. So, but this open, close, curly braces is for the data. Okay, so you have to be a little careful because there are a lot of parameters and subparameters involved here, so you just have to be careful. So this, where is my, okay, so I have a, at the end of this, it's 1, 2, 3, 4 parameters, so I have to, all of these are Ajax parameters, another comma, and then it's basically a Boolean value that I get back, whether it was successful or not, running, getting the data. And if we do get the data, what we want to do is, this is data coming, remember, from this get courses. So so if I were to sort of go in here and say get courses /1, it gives me the JSON for the user having chosen department 1. Okay, so that is what is this. When I say data, that's what is being referred to here. And the function now, if it is successful, I'm creating another function to work on that data. So I'm going to bring it to the next. And what I'm going to do here, by the way, I think this AJAX function at the end requires a semicolon there. And so those two, okay. And where I open document, there is the rest. Okay, I made a mistake here. This is why this JavaScript is a little tricky. There is no closing parentheses there. Okay, that closing parentheses is all the way down here. Okay, so it opens up document.ready, and then I'm creating a function, open close parentheses, and that, then I open curly braces, close curly braces, close. Okay, so it's sort of, this goes all the way down here. Okay, and then, so that's on the document ready. Then I opened curly braces here. Okay, so that's there. And then I have the department.ready, department target, and then I look for the onChange function, and this one is basically on changing what am I going to do. Okay, I create a starter function and I go all the way down. And this here, this on, and this is where, as I said, it's a little tricky. This, I need to close it. So this opened up here, and I never closed it, so it has to close here. Well, after the, so this curly brace is after this. So my closing parentheses is here. So you have to be quite careful. There is no clear indication of where, if an error occurs, where it's occurring. Okay, so that's why I was trying to check and make sure. Okay, I opened, closed, and then for the data, if it is successful, I come back down here. And then I'm taking the data and constructing my list so that I can. So this is where I'll keep going back and forth. So I'll populate the drop-down list with the values, the JSON values that were sent to me. So I start by saying that the list is empty initially, and list.empty is the method. I'm clearing it out, and then for each element inside of the, I'm basically going to construct for each of the courses that were brought back. I need to construct the like the option for the drop down. So that's what I'm going to do over here. So it's like what we do, like setting up the loop and constructing the table. So dot each is going to do it for each row of the data that we have gotten. So I'm looking inside the data, getting each row out, and then setting up another function. Okay, so as I set up another function, this has to, I have to take this down, so which means, so this is the curly brace, so this is basically referring to this data here. So, and then I have to start, for the function, I have to open up another curly brace. Okay, so which means that this curly brace, if it ends, I need to again leave some space there. Okay, so I'll have to put a semicolon here. I really don't like how it sort of moves it all the way over there, but I guess that's my idiosyncrasy. So if it is this part, if it's successful, I need to go through this here, okay, and for each element, so successful getting the data, and for each row of data, I'm trying to do something with it. So I'm basically setting up, as I said, this list for the course. So list, I'm going to keep appending. It's the append method on the list, and here I'm basically setting up, as I said, the option. So it is option value equal, and I'm going to use single quotes and double quotes. Okay, the single quotes are actually what will go and be used. So I have to construct, remember, the drop-down list, which will have the option value, and then you have to close the tag and so on. So if you were to look at one of the hard-coded drop-down values, you will immediately see this. I don't know if I have any of them open. So if you, I think we had it in register. So I'll just very quickly open the model. I need to view. Okay, so let's see, register. And if you see the hard-coded version, right, where is it? Okay, right here, option value, and then we have to give the what the user sees, and then close option. So that's what we're trying to accomplish here, and this is sort of being built up using this JavaScript, and so we are creating a list of those drop-down options. Okay, so that's why, again, we have to be quite careful. There's a combination of single and double quotes. Okay, so okay, I have to briefly pause the recording to take a phone call. So what we are saying here is within single quotes, whatever appears is going to be as is, and then I hope there is one more outside. I hope you're able to hear what I'm saying. So basically, if you remove this, we are saying that, okay, we want to have this part as is, and then we are going to construct some things that are coming from the data set. Like remember that we ran this get courses, which is giving course ID and course name. So what we need to do over here is literally put together a drop-down list with those values. Okay, so and that we are using a combination of code that is straight code, like just basically the strings, just the text, plus values that are coming from outside, which will be, so the first one is the course ID, and then I have to say, okay, continues on, single quote. So I'm basically going to say option value equals course ID, whatever value that came from. If it is 5, it's going to be equals 5 within double quotes, right? So that's what I'm setting up here. So this brings in the value that is not hard-coded, and then we start hard-coding again, which is the close tag, so this close of the angle brackets, okay? And then we bring up the single quotes again, okay? And then bring in the course name, because that's what we want to show to the user as text. Okay, so this is the value for the option. This is the text that the user is going to see. Another plus sign, and then a single quote, and whatever we want to, we are ending the option tag here. Okay, so this pretty much completes what each line of the code is going to be, each line of the option. Okay. Okay, again, a lot of interruptions as I'm trying to go through this, so hopefully I just want to, let's see, this is supposed to be closing this tag, so open, close, and this, okay, so why is there something indicated here? Okay, and then finally, let's see, where is it? This is for the success, okay, and then for the last parameter is going to be if there's an error, and for that I need to specify some type of another function which basically says, okay, there's an alert, I'll give an alert saying that data not received or something to that effect, because it didn't read it in. Okay, so I'll keep this right here. There's a lot of material in this function here, which is using, as I said, the jQuery. If the jQuery was not there, this would just be, I guess, maybe 5 times as large as this. It's already becoming very hard to handle. But we are trying to use some of the built-in functions in the library itself that allows us to reduce this. So first access the script for jQuery, then we are creating our function, okay, using the department target, then whatever value that the user has selected on change, then we are building up the course target, which is the drop-down list. We use get courses, which is the method in the controller, okay, and from there, we are just going in, if it was successful getting the value for this department ID, we use get courses to get the JSON, and use the JSON data to build up our our list of option values to display. Okay, so let's go ahead and try this out. Actually, since I made all the changes in the view, let's see if I can just, don't know if I have anything open. I guess I closed it, so I'll have to rerun this. Okay, so I have my two drop down. Let's see now. If I change this from MIS to accounting, okay, it changed to the accounting courses. If I change it back to MIS, I have the MIS courses. And if I chose marketing, I don't think I have any courses at all in marketing, so nothing shows up here. Okay. Now, if I were to select this, it would take it into this controller here, and, well, the second controller here, this one, and provide us the selected value. So I'm going to put a breakpoint because I'll just put a couple of breakpoints. I put it against the second one. So I'm not wanting to write more code to just show that the main part of this entire exercise was to use the jQuery JavaScript to basically to have the drop-down list connected. So this entire exercise is for that rather than something that follows it. So what I'm going to do is run it in debug mode and have it come and stop here. Okay, so I'll just set it up in debug mode so that we know that the values are being received. Okay, so let's say we wrote accounting and intermediate accounting. So if I do this, click on search, it'll come into the controller method. Department ID is 2 for accounting. I can also go into the model. Course ID is 4. Okay. So basically I get the values that the user has chosen. So hopefully this makes it clear to you. Again, I want all of you to start trying to apply this on your projects. Okay, so that if I open this up, what I want you to do is on Monday apply the different concepts and ideas that we have been working to. Most of the logic, the data, all of that is already there in the form of your model classes in terms of the logic that you have built into your controller methods and so on. The pieces that we are trying to work on now is adding in like the dashboard aspect of it using view components, and hopefully many of you will explore the Morris charts. I will discuss some of it next Tuesday. Nested DDLs, which we just went through, so which uses the Ajax so that you go back and forth between, sort of seamlessly between the browser and the server. without so the user experience is significantly better. And then we want to provide some meaningful error messages. So a lot of what we are trying to do is really improve the user experience. It's not so much the logic itself, because that's already, we have worked on building that. And then one other thing that might be helpful are these looking at some API for payment options. So that's pretty much what I have as a list. Again, as I keep going through your projects and meeting with you, there might be a few others that we'll try to explore. I would highly encourage you to explore it if you're interested. Since we sort of have the foundation from here, I'm hoping that you can take it wherever you wish to take it. Okay, so that's about it. I'll see you on Tuesday. Hopefully, a couple of interruptions and the noise from some lawnmower outside, I hope didn't take away from the understanding. So please try this out, both for your individual as well as the group projects.